The Michael Berry Show.
Today is election day. There's some city of Houston elections. You got a number of state propositions. You got some special elections for unexpired terms. There are plenty of things to vote on. Our endorsements are at michaelberryshow.com. Gets a little complicated for people who are trying to figure all this out. Well, wait a second. What about the challenge of John Cornyn by Ken Paxton and Wesley Hunt? That is not today. That will be in the primary, which will come in the spring. And after today, which is election day, where New York will get a new mayor, city of New Jersey will get a new governor, state of Virginia a new governor and attorney general. After today, we will turn our attention completely and exclusively to the primaries, which will be in March. But that race for the United States Senate seat from the great state of Texas has already heated up. As you know, the Attorney General announced pretty early that he would be in that race against John Cornyn, and John Cornyn turned around and started running very negative ads on Paxton. But then the race got interesting and complicated because Congressman Wesley Hunt jumped in the race, and all of a sudden, Cornyn turned his artillery and everything he unloaded at Wesley Hunt. He's very, very concerned that Hunt might be taking his votes. He even went so far as to call a decorated military veteran, West Point graduate, Army combat veteran, helicopter pilot named Wesley Hunt, a coward. Congressman Wesley Hunt is our guest. What did you think when you heard that?
First of all, Michael, thank you so much for having me on, sir. Really appreciate you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for fighting for us. So when John Cornyn called me a coward, the first thing I thought about was the 55 combat air missions that I flew in Baghdad in an AH-64 Delta Apache. I think about my military service. I think about the fact that I put my life on the line for this great nation when less than 1% of the country is willing to do that. I look at a 74-year-old man who never served in this country and wore the uniform never a day in his life. And when somebody like that refers to me as a coward, I'm not going to lie, it makes me smile. Because I realize one thing and one thing only. Only cowards who never served have the audacity to call somebody that actually wore the uniform, like I did in this situation, a coward of all things. And I realize, brother, we're doing pretty good. It just means that we are right over the target zone. And if I'm John Cornyn, and if I have just spent $45 million on this race before the filing deadline, and I am still polling in the low 30s and high 20s after being around for over 2 decades, my frustration level has got to be pretty high. And if he is resulting in these kinds of tactics, even though he has had a blood feud with Ken Paxton for the past few years, and I have been in this race for a cup of coffee, and now he's calling me a coward, it means he's getting ready to lose.
What did he say exactly about you was cowardly?
There was an investigation that was done in Dallas on his daughter, and we didn't even write this piece. It was done by the Dallas Morning News, basically correlating his daughter, who is a lobbyist on NBC, with some of the legislation that John Cornyn has passed. And so I just simply reposted that to say, hey, take a look at this. The swamp is continuing to swamp. This is a part of the problem. And then he said that I was a coward for going after his family. Now, this is also a man that went after my family because he is complaining about me missing votes because my child was in the NICU. He also went after Attorney General Paxton's personal life because of his divorce. He also went after Hunter Biden. Let me tell you something. None of us on this call are fans of Hunter Biden, but I guess Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, they're fair game. He went after Hunter Biden and his personal life. So at the end of the day, I'm like, the hypocrisy here is nauseating. And these are the actions of a caged animal lashing out, a cornered animal that has nowhere to go. And you're seeing this campaign crumble in real time because a 24-year incumbent should never behave this way.
When you say a caged animal, what animal do you specifically think of inside that cage?
That caged animal will be probably a 75 to 80-year-old rhinoceros. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
That's good. I was thinking a skunk, but rhinoceros is good. That's a big cage. Rhinoceroses are insanely powerful.
I'm not the older ones, brother. He's lost his step, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I gotta ask this. Hold on a second. I got a question that you just reminded me on the power issue. Your right-hand man and I were texting to set up for today, and I said I need to know how much you could bench press one time and how much you could bench press 10 times. Did he tell me you could bench 315 and 275 10 times?
275 10 times, that's about right. Yeah.
And your max would be 315?
My max is probably higher than that, but Michael, I'm old. I haven't maxed out in a very long time, brother.
What do you think you last maxed out at?
Last time, probably about 350 to 375, somewhere around there.
What do you think John Cornyn would do?
If Mom Donnie couldn't do 135, I'd put John Cornyn at about 30 pounds.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. So let's talk about what exactly he called you a coward about, which was revealing what he's calling a personal family detail. It's very important that people understand in a conversation like this that there are spinmeisters like Karl Rove who are hired to come in and say, we've got to get them to stop talking about the fact that your daughter is operating as a funnel, a straw man, so they can pay her to kick the cash to you and your families. And this is a family enterprise of our government, and it's very unethical. So how do we do that? Well, we say, you're criticizing my family. You're the one, sir, who brought your family into the business. This daughter, as I understand it, Wesley Hunt, this daughter, Haley, I guess, was hired as a receptionist, then a paralegal for a little fledgling firm in Austin that basically didn't exist. And then once they hire her, they put her out front because she's a Cornyn, and they said, a very, very big office in D.C. I think pretty much every Republican primary voter can see what that is.
Every Republican primary voter can see exactly what that is. This is why he is failing in the polls as we live and breathe. And what you just described, Michael, is the exact thing that I see in D.C. every day, and this is what I am trying my best to fight against. The nepotism in D.C., the glad handing, the using of federal funds and your hard-earned American tax-paying money to funnel it to individual families is something that has got to stop. This is the swamp that just continues to swamp, that just continues to swamp. And one thing that he attacks me on is, well, Wesley, you missed X amount of votes and this and that. I really wish John Cornyn missed more votes. I really wish John Cornyn missed the votes when he took away our gun rights.
That might have been your best line ever. Hold on. Wesley Hunt is our guest.
It's Slinky. It's fun for a girl and a boy.
I like Michael Berry Show.
Wesley Hunt's line of the day: John Cornyn criticizes me for missing too many votes. Well, considering the way he votes, I wish he would miss more votes. That's pretty good. Wesley Hunt, Congressman Wesley Hunt of the 38th Congressional District, our guest, after John Cornyn called him a coward. Called him a coward because Hunt reposted an article by the Dallas Express that said that John Cornyn's daughter is a lobbyist, and the lobbying firm built themselves around her. She was a newbie to the industry. Then they opened up a big D.C. presence with her as the face of it. It's very weird, folks. It's very weird. It's Hunter Biden selling paintings for millions of dollars weird. It's we can't find the cocaine in the White House weird. Calling Wesley Hunt a coward, a guy with an impeccable military record, is another misstep. I think back to the Clayton Williams-Ann Richards race, where Clayton Williams was so far ahead, and it was just sort of like everything he did, he stepped in it, and you couldn't help but notice it as you watched it. John Cornyn is just stepping in it at turn after turn. I think part of that is he's terribly out of touch. Wesley Hunt, as you've been traveling the state, what are you hearing people say of Cornyn? Because they're not going to give you an audience if they're happy with their senator.
What I'm hearing over and over and over again is this. The first thing is it's time for the next generation of leadership. It's time for America First patriots, true America First patriots like me. I'm the first person in the country to endorse President Trump. I was one of his top surrogates. I campaigned for him in Iowa. 11 times, caucused for him in Iowa, flew with him to Las Vegas and California and Pennsylvania and South Carolina and, of course, Florida. And they're looking for people to carry on that America First banner. And what I'm hearing from people, and that is they're just finished with John Cornyn. And that jives, brother. And I tell you that because this summer, John Cornyn was polling in the high 20s and low 30s this summer. He is now polling in the 20s as a 20-year incumbent. To give you some contrast here, Ted Cruz today is polling at 88%. Which means that the base is still with strong conservatives like Senator Cruz, but Senator Cornyn just doesn't represent us anymore. I have been absolutely flattered by the reception. I can't believe how well we are doing, and I look forward to giving the people of Texas an option of two conservative voices, me and General Paxton. That is the whole point of this race. John Cornyn has to go out with the old and in with the new.
I think it has surprised people that you and Attorney General Paxton have not attacked each other, but have both said we need an alternative to John Cornyn, which is what I expected, knowing you both pretty well. But for people that don't understand that, explain.
What people have to understand is that General Paxton and I are going to go to D.C., and both of us are going to be true conservatives voting for Texas and bringing Texas to D.C., not the other way around. I have no doubt that General Paxton would do just that. The reason why I got in this race is because in the summer, General Paxton was polling in the 40s, even in the 50s at some point. And since then, it's been a drop-off for him. He is now polling in the 30s. And I realized that maybe, just maybe, we need another option. Again, this is not about peeling away votes from Ken. This is about giving the people of Texas a true conservative option once I saw his polling numbers decrease. I also heard this a lot from people. Wesley, we need somebody that can win the primary election and also win the general election running away. We need somebody that can step into the breach and do both simultaneously. I am already outperforming both of them in the general election versus any generic Democrat. So you have an option to have a true America First patriot that's in this primary, but also can beat a Tallarico or an Allred running away without it costing us hundreds of millions of dollars. And these are dollars that need to be spent in Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, and Maine. I just want Texas to have an option for a conservative voice that votes like they want us to vote in D.C. Really, at the end of the day, General Paxton, we know, is a true conservative, and so am I.
You know, I have not seen the crosstabs of that big poll that came out. I think it surprised people. Cornyn in the lead. General Paxton in the lead, then Cornyn in second, and you in third. But it was you had, I think, 22%, and General Paxton had 34, and Cornyn had, say, 31. And you had just begun the race, and you've represented 1/38 of the congressional delegation of the state. So I think that was a big surprise that you did as well as you did. But my understanding, and I've not seen it from the crosstabs, is that you are pulling your votes away from Cornyn, and that's what makes him. Cornyn versus Paxton is two very different constituencies. Low information voters that kind of vote for the incumbent, the name you know, versus constitutional conservatives. And so that was that. But some of the folks who say, well, I'm not with Cornyn, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be with Paxton, are going with you. But a lot of the folks are saying, I like Cornyn, but I like Wesley Hunt as well, which means that you're doing him a lot of harm in that race, which is, I think, why he's going after you, calling you a baby, a coward, and trying to attack you in these different ways.
I can't agree more with you. And if you recall, I mean, this was a blood feud. And I always say this race can't be about a blood feud between two men. And if you recall, throughout the entire summer, going through September, October, they were running negative ads, millions of dollars of negative ads against Ken. And the second that I got in this race, he hasn't whispered Ken's name at all. And for the last 2 or 3 weeks, it has just been the onslaught from just the D.C. swamp and John Cornyn coming after me. So that kind of corroborates the fact that they clearly have been doing polling. If you've noticed, they haven't released any of the polling that they've done because it looks terrible for them. And they started attacking me. That's the canary in the coal mine. You know what's happening behind the scenes here. And most importantly, people have to understand the power of President Trump and the power that he has to choose the next senator from Texas. And as you know, he has stayed out of this race. Under no circumstances did Donald Trump give me the wink and a nod and tell me to get in this race. But I will also note that he hasn't selected anybody in this race as well. And also know this, I would never have gotten in this race if President Trump told me not to. And we all know he has no issues with telling you what he wants and telling you like it is. So I also want to give the president and the White House another option as well as this thing continues to play out and earn not just his support, but most importantly, earn, and I mean earn, the support of the primary voter.
Going to be very interesting because there is no doubt, and I felt this from the very beginning, there is no doubt that your entry into the race, I didn't think you'd get in. You and I had a conversation early on, and you were coy, and I thought if he was going to get in, he would be in by now. But I didn't think you would get in. It takes a lot of chutzpah to do so. There's another word we'd use in Texas, and you and I know what that is. But it's pretty bold to be willing to do it. I mean, this is the big leagues. But when you did, I immediately assessed that this is the death knell for John Cornyn. And my understanding, and you know better than I do because you were hearing about those calls, is they were working very hard behind the scenes to get Trump to put pressure on you to stay out of the race. That all came from Cornyn. Paxton wasn't in any way bothering you at all. Congressman Wesley Hunt, as always, thank you, my man.
God bless you, brother. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
And the girls all get prettier at closing time when you're listening to The Michael Berry Show.